What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Pod Scum. I'm your host, Rexx Ruger. That's the Freddie Mercury puppet. We are back with another incredible episode. My guest is already here. We are diving right in. Let's go. Good morning, Joel.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
I'm awesome, man. Good to see you, man. I appreciate you doing this, man. Thank you. It's really a pleasure, man.
Yeah, likewise, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Is there any way to get your audio a little louder?
This is probably the
perfect.
Yeah,
that's much better. That's much better. Thank you. I appreciate it, man. And when I was doing my research for you, I usually start these questions or these interviews out with a typical question. Because I find a lot of people when they get involved in the arts, music, any form of the arts, that a lot of them, not everybody, they come from homes where that kind of thing is fostered. A lot of records playing, a lot of music, maybe musically proficient parents. I usually ask if this was the case for the guest, but it was the case for you, correct?
Yeah, my parents are both classical musicians, so I definitely grew up a lot of music happening around the house. It wasn't necessarily rock.
Right.
Quite the contrary, actually. I mean, they basically didn't really listen to rock. My mom kind of got into the disco thing when that was happening when I was a kid, a little bit. So there was a little bit of that playing, but that was about it. A lot of kids grow up, their parents listening to the Beatles or Elvis Presley or something, like that, but not in the house, man. It was all classical.
And so what did you gravitate towards first? I have in my notes here that the cello and piano happened before guitar.
Yeah, that was forced on me, though. And I wasn't any good either. I don't want to create some kind of illusion where I was some child virtuoso or something.
Yeah.
I was just kind of doing it begrudgingly. And then, I was more into playing Little League baseball, and that was my main thing, was being a pitcher. I was really obsessed with that as a really younger kid.
Yeah.
And then I think about the age of 11 really is where everything just kind of shifted, Some of the other kids were getting a little bigger than me. I was staying smaller. I was as good at baseball, and magically guitar took over right at that time, man. Kind of came along, and lo and behold, I had a new passion. So.
And did you feel like because your parents were proficient at music, did you feel a pressure?
No, not at all. I mean, I think it was totally a passion with guitar. That was different. I mean, when it came to the other stuff, no, I was probably too young to feel the pressure, like the classical thing. I'm sure my parents had hopes of having one kid who turned out to be a classical virtuoso, right?
Yeah.
Both parents are really highly skilled classical musicians. But no, I mean, I started guitar basically off of a love for AC/DC, Angus Young. That's what basically lit the fire for me, seeing him and hearing Back in Black. And
sure.
That's what made me want to get a guitar.
And what were your parents' take on when you do start to deviate from the classical and start going towards the heavier music?
Probably shock and surprise, I guess. I think upon getting an electric guitar, I mean, they were going to make me show that I was dedicated to buy me an amp. So they didn't buy me an amp, but the guy who sold the guitar and my first guitar teacher, same guy, he was really cool and said, you know what you do? You take this cable that comes with the guitar, you plug it into the auxiliary input of your stereo. So I took the home stereo and put it all the way up, cranked it up, and that was how I used to practice. I mean, it was totally clean, of course, just playing through the auxiliary input of the stereo, no distortion or anything like that. But I remember vividly cranking it as loud as I could from the very get-go, which I'm sure was horrendous. So I'm sure I could barely sound decent at that point in time, but nonetheless, I wanted it so loud the entire neighborhood could hear it. Yeah.
And would you describe your guitar journey as self-taught? Were there lessons involved along the way?
Yeah, I did a lot of, my first teacher was really cool. Like I said, he taught me a lot of rock songs, and that definitely was a great way to go because it got me really hooked. And my second teacher came in at that same store. I was just taken in a mall in the suburbs of Chicago where I grew up. I mean, none of this was supposed to happen. I kind of grew up in a poor neighborhood and took lessons there from both of them. The second guy that they hired ended up being a really proficient player, TJ Helmrich. He did really well, released albums in the rock fusion vein. So he was the guy to teach me solos, like you would transcribe back in the day. You'd go to your teacher, and we didn't have the resources like YouTube where somebody show it to you.
Right.
The teacher would sit there and toggle on the cassette on the boombox and show you how the solo goes. And but he taught me the modes, things like that. And then I went to started taking some classical lessons. Kind of gearing up to do a little bit of that too, and basically took from a guy who had gone to GIT and it had learned their curriculum, because it was my plan to go to GIT. That was where I wanted to go.
Okay.
Really from kind of, I guess, like maybe my junior year of high school, I was like, I want to go to GIT when I graduate and head out there. So I was a little young. I mean, I graduated at 17, so my parents had me hang 2 more years and do like 2 years of classical guitar in community college, more or less. And that was the period in time where I was probably playing more of that than I was playing electric. I was doing a lot of that playing my nylon string and getting that together. But yeah, I mean, yeah, that's kind of the rough way of like the childhood evolution of it all. And then really I did go to GIT, which of course is like a 12-month program of guitar. And then ever since then, it's more or less just been the real world. Really haven't done a whole lot of like going and taking lessons from people and things like that from the age of 21 on. I just kind of was like real world.
Yeah. And for people that might not know, I've got it in my notes, but I'd like to hear from you. What would you consider your first big break? When did you burst on the scene? What was the first gig? How did you land the first gig?
It's really complicated with me, man. There's a lot of small steps. I mean, locally there. So I was in LA for the year of GIT and stayed 1 more year to work at CHER Studios as a tech out there. I was kind of miserable because I wasn't making my living on my guitar. I wanted the guitar in my hand. So I kind of made the decision to go back to the Chicago suburbs. I figured I can put together a band and gig on weekends, and I teach guitar a little bit easier. So I had 70 students a week, and locally speaking, I ended up in Kathy Richardson's band. Kathy sings for Jefferson Starship these days. So she had a real good scene happening, man. She had a local following, records that were doing well, CDs at that point in time that were selling well. So primarily her material. That was the first time anybody wanted my picture or autograph or anything like that, even just as a local guy. And then locally there, because of being in her band, Jim Peterick lived in that area. He founded Survivor and the Ides of March and wrote a lot of hit songs. And so he had these events called World Stage, where he basically put me in his house band, and all of his friends would come out and sing a few songs. And that, as a local musician, was a big break, because suddenly I was backing up Kevin Cronin from REO Speedwagon, Don Barnes, 38 Special. This is my list that I give, but there's a really long list of people I got to do this with. Rick Emmett from Triumph, Kip Winger, Alan Parsons, just to name a handful of them. But one of them was Kelly Kagi from Night Ranger. He was there every year. So that eventually turned into my pathway into Night Ranger, showing up one of the years. And Kelly's wife basically told me, Jeff's not with the band anymore, Jeff Watson. And Red Beach is kind of in there for a little bit. And I kind of got on Kelly like, hey, man, you should have called me. And at that point in time, Kathy Richardson had landed a role as Janis Joplin in this show called Love, Janis. It was a rock musical, and it was musical. Sounds like it's light in the loafers, man. It was pretty heavy hitting. I mean, we were like a live band on stage. It was as close as you can get to being like a real band in a theater setting. We were loud and in your face and playing that 60s style. So anyway, I had gone to New York. That's what brought me here, where I currently still reside, to New York City to do that show. I ran like a couple of years. So I was still flying back to do the Peterick gigs once a year. I'd go to fly back to do the World Stage gigs. So Kelly was telling Night Ranger, Reb needed to miss a show. Man, I know this guy. He gets off the plane and he knows like 36 songs to play down for these Jim Peterick gigs, man. And he does the 8-finger technique. And so they decided, rather than canceling this show that Red Beach needed to miss, rather than canceling it or just playing it one guitar with just Brad Gillis, they said, Kelly kind of talked him into like, have this guy in. So I just learned the stuff, went in, and that turned out basically to be my audition for Night Ranger. So all these things were big breaks. I mean, or small breaks, however you want to look at it. Climbing to get to the point where I was, Love, Janis was a big deal, because that was the first time I wasn't teaching anymore. playing 8 shows a week in New York City on a show, and that was to me a big deal at the time. And then you know, even landing in Kathy's band was a big deal for me. I mean, locally there, that just kind of happened casually, you know. But all these things kind of built, and then from the way things kind of progressed is having Night Ranger. I also had been subbing and pit stuff, like in New York on Broadway. Like a friend of mine is a legitimate pit guitar player, lives a couple blocks from me. He asked me if I'd be into subbing for him because he knew I'd read and play classical, and I was like kind of tentative, but I started doing it just to better my skills and whatnot, and ended up landing Rock of Ages through that. One of the keyboard players on one of the shows became the music supervisor, hired me on Rock of Ages. So now I had Night Ranger and this Broadway show that was about 80s hard rock, basically, or set in that time period. So those two things kind of went together nicely. I could sub out whenever I needed to at the Broadway show, still continue touring with Night Ranger.
Yeah.
And then Trans-Siberian Orchestra came along, and that was like, oh crap, this is a great opportunity and something that I wanted to do, headline arenas. It's a really great gig. It just was a little terrifying because it was like I was only in Night Ranger for 2 years at the time, and I was going to have to go to them and say, guys, I'm not going to be able to play shows at you in November or December, and hope I wouldn't get fired. And also really, I'd only been subbing out to go play with Night Ranger on weekends. So at Rock of Ages going, by the way, every November, December, it's going to be like, bye, I'm going to see you in months. But all three of them, as it turned out, fit together pretty decently. Night Ranger got Carrie Kelly, who plays with them nowadays, to fill in for me, basically, during that time period. And Rock of Ages, there was really no issues ever with that, which that's a nice thing about a Broadway gig, is it's very union protected. Somebody can come in and sub for you and try and steal your gig. Like, you're hired, you have a white hiring slip, and that's that. Now you hold it down until the show closes. So that allowed all three of those to fit together, really 2010 through 2014. And then that's when Whitesnake came along, Rock of Ages was closing. So a lot of things kind of morphed in that period. You know, it was like, go to Whitesnake from Night Ranger, Rock of Ages kind of went away. So I had Whitesnake and TSO. David had knee surgery 1 year, and that's when CHER got added into the fold. So, you know, at that point, Whitesnake, CHER, and TSO, which is probably the best kind of simultaneous resume I've had. I mean, all these things were good breaks for me, man. But like that one big break, I never really went from like zero to hero overnight.
Right. It sounds like timing has had a lot to do with it, though. Being in the right place, right time, and as you said, having these things kind of, you know, chronologically like fall into the right order for you.
Yeah, just I think for me, is like staying busy, keeping a lot of irons in the fire, like not just like sitting around, and trying to get out there and do a lot of stuff. And sometimes things lead to places you never expect. I mean, I say it all the time. It's not like I was a kid going like, dude, someday I'm going to make it to Broadway. But when Rock of Ages came along, that was a great break for me. It really changed my life. I hate to talk about it this way, but like financially, it was a really big deal.
Oh, yeah.
When I got that gig, I mean, I was just a guy who just joined Night Ranger. I barely had any money. And by the end of the 6-year run with that, having added, you know, Night Ranger and this steady, good paying gig in town here, I could sub out and Trans-Siberian Orchestra. I mean, by the time Rock of Ages closed, my entire, like, I guess, financial reality had changed, where I was like, yeah, man, I'm going to be able to do this. Like, this is going to work out. Because up until then, it still kind of existed in this whole land of like, dude, I don't want to end up having to do something else for a living.
Right.
That was always what I was keeping my eye on more than anything, was being like, I didn't really set out to be a rock star. A lot of guys in the 80s bands definitely did that. That was like their prime goal. Like, they like, I want to be a star. I was like, I want to make my living playing guitar. That was that was my.
It's funny that you mentioned that too, because I live in upstate New York. New York City, obviously, fantastic, an amazing cultural city. I don't think I have to tell the audience that, but not always necessarily the first choice for musicians. You mentioned all these guys that wanted to become rock stars back in the 80s. You know what I mean? LA, the Sunset Strip. You know what I mean? There's been great scenes in other areas. I don't know if New York is always looked at as the hub of music, but you've chose to put roots down there. Tell me a little bit about that decision.
Yeah, I mean, that's not really something that's something that's really based out of like coming out here to do Love Janice and meeting my now wife, you know, and she basically was like from here, her family's here, she has a job here. So that's kind of why I'm still based out of here. Otherwise, I wouldn't be based here. Really, I don't really. I'm way past the point of like where I really enjoy New York City.
Yeah.
Occasionally, it pays off to be here. There's some things that come together where it's like, well, it's nice to be here in town. Like if I want to go do something at Guitar World, they're based here. You can go shoot videos with them right here in town. Or when that metal show was happening, I got my guest appearances on there because it was literally shooting like 20 blocks from me.
Yeah.
I mean, like right here in my hood. So, there's been some times it's paid off, and Rock of Ages was definitely a point where it paid off. I mean, that ran for 6 years. So there was like 6 years where I was like, well, no, this is great because I have a at-home gig. But really, since that closed in 2014, my reason to be in New York is like slim to none, you know?
I'm sure you can agree with me, Joel, that right now is not a great time because we are freezing our fucking asses off.
Yeah, the weather sucks. The weather sucks, and there's a lot of things just like cost of living wise that suck. I mean, the real estate space that you get for what you pay. I mean, I own, which is cool, and you know, obviously my New York City apartment would probably translate into a really nice home elsewhere.
Right.
So that can kind of eat at you at times when you're struggling with the space and the limitations. And definitely the taxes thing is like just brutal, man. You know, not the state, but the city, and that eats into everything you earn, even when you're barely making any money here. So those kind of things bother me about New York City. But like I said, occasionally there's an upside to it. You get to know there is somewhat of a scene here and musicians here that, you know, friends that I've made, and you know, it comes in handy like enough. And realistically, I need a place with airports.
Sure.
You know, to go where I go. So I wouldn't want to live 2 or 3 hours away from a major airport. And New York's a great place for being able to get some gigs in Europe and still fly direct and whatnot. There's some upsides.
I certainly want to get into talking about the new album From the Fade. Before we get to that, though, I just want to ask about your run with Whitesnake. Obviously, you know, this past year, David Coverdale announced his official retirement. Man, what are your memories of getting to play alongside? You had a nice little run with them. Appeared on their last 2 albums. The legendary. I'm rocking the shirt today. Love them. Got to see you guys on one of those last tours here in upstate New York. What were your memories of playing alongside the legendary David Coverdale?
Yeah, really great, man. I mean, we all kind of saw it coming, I think, when the farewell tour had the plug pulled on the European run, where it was like, well, this could be the end. So it's not like we weren't expecting it. There's really nothing to say other than like, I wish David nothing but like the absolute best. I mean, he lived up to everything he said he was going to live up to with me joining. And realistically, touring wise, there were probably 11 years, and then we kind of just laid low the last couple years. So I mean, they had like a 13-14 year run in the band if you include the time and everything. I mean, and technically, I mean, depending on how you want to look at it, it's always ongoing. It's not like, you know, if he was going to pick it up and play tomorrow, that I wouldn't be involved in that. But
never say never, right?
I just wish David well with it all. He's a great guy, man. Working for him and working with him, total pleasure, man. Great guy, great positive attitude. Learned a lot from him in that regard. Just a lot of fun. Like, people sometimes think he's a very serious guy because of the Regal thing.
Right.
Not going out with his accent. He's so dignified, but he's really just a blast. He's a lot about the laughs and great to hang out with. Had some really fun times with David, and you know, we still keep in touch. He's always in touch on the band thread. Sometimes we'll text personally or get on the phone, and we have a bit of a friendship. It's not like we're talking every day, but we have a friendship that I think will withstand like the dormancy of Whitesnake, if you will. I think we'll continue to have that friendship. So I'm really grateful for everything, all the experiences, great experiences.
Now, when you're putting together From the Fade, Joel Hoekstra's 13, the new album drops very soon here, February 27th. When you're putting this together, what is the creative process like? Because this is your project, but you've got people playing on it. Do you create everything?
Yeah, I mean, that's really something that started way back when we need to go back all the way to the Kathy Richardson band era, where the TJ Helmrich influence, along with a friend that he had made, Brett Garsid, they were kind of my tours, look, like fusion, rock fusion. So I started making instrumental music along with like their rhythm section. Virgil Donati, who's absolutely incredible on drums, and Rick Fierabbracci, incredible bassist, and TJ was head of RIT now at Musicians Institute. It's a lesser known division. Everybody knows GIT, but RIT is, so he had free time in an SSL room and Neve room. And so basically got to track the drums in a nice live room and be able to mix it on an SSL. Like my first instrumental albums, Undefined and The Moon Is Falling, were kind of like fusion-y or proggy, largely instrumental, like the occasional little vocal thing here or there. But 13 acoustic songs I followed up after, and that was like a fingerstyle acoustic record. So what happened is all that was kind of made 2001 through 2007. And then all of a sudden, everything kind of took off in the hard rock world, like Join Night Ranger, Rock of Ages, all the stuff we're talking about, TSO, Whitesnake. And all the fans are going back and they're diving into my solo stuff. And they're like, dude, what the hell is this? Like, this sounds like nothing like what you're doing in the bands. And so that I thought, well, I've always wanted to do rock albums. And that was the reasoning for starting this JOEL HOEKSTRA'S 13. It didn't really interest me to put out like rock shred albums. I thought, you know, that's kind of played, man, you know, like listening to some guitar player just go widdly widdly woo for 4 minutes a track. So I kind of wanted to go the approach of more or less what I do in the bands that I was a part of, but be the guy who got to write everything for a change, not just write the guitar riffs, but write the vocal melodies and the lyrics, and that makes it more of a personalized thing. So I suppose you could say it's about the songwriting. It's about a lot else too. I mean, I would say you throw in the creative vision, like, you know, lyrically what it's about, having a theme for a record, what the artwork looks like to a degree, like overseeing that, commentary on it, like overseeing the mix, what it sounds like sonically. So all of that really launched out, and the collection of musicians basically is Vinny Appice on drums, Tony Franklin on bass, Derek Sherinian on keyboards. Jeff Scott Soto is the backing vocalist on all these records, if you can believe it or not, because we're tight friends. He's a great guy, and he's obviously overqualified to be singing backups, but he's killer at them, dude. And if the moment he volunteers to do something like that for your records, you say yes, because it's going to make the record sound killer. And then the lead vocals, to kind of simplify things, went from Russell Allen on the first two, Dying to Live and Running Games, and then switched to Girish Pradhan for Crash of Life and Now From the Fade. So this is the fourth one under this. And that was a lot of people get confused by the name, but I wanted to give it like a project name. It's not really cool to call it a band if I'm the only one doing the writing. It's not really cool to the other guys. It's more of a personalized experience, but also it doesn't sound like a guitar solo album. Like if you listen to it, it does sound like a band. It sounds like something you'd hear a band write or play together. So that interested me far more than I said than making it like just a Guitar Hero showcase kind of thing, you know, where you're just trying to blow chops all over the place. So yeah, that's been the intent with these, is to give people songs that they can listen to, and tip of the cap to the music that got me into it. And you know, for me, it serves as a creative outlet and something that overall speaks to like my body of work by the time I got to give this up or die or whatever, you know, man. Like being not just like the side man who is, oh yeah, that guy, he had some cool gigs or whatever, but like having these instrumental albums first, and then these JOEL HOEKSTRA'S 13 albums, like showing you like creating your own music along the way.
And when you sit around and create this, because, and I've asked this question to lots of guests on here, when I look at album reviews nowadays, and this probably speaks to where we are here in today's modern era and the way people are consuming music. You know what I mean? I don't have to tell you, attention spans are not what they once were. People aren't necessarily dropping the needle and listening to albums all the way through. Do you have do you reconcile with yourself how long you want these projects to be? This has got to be this amount of songs coming at this amount of minutes, because I see that as a sticking point now with a lot of reviewers, how long an album is.
That's something that's actually designated by the record label, and I usually give them more than they ask for. I mean, that's like Frontiers will have a standard length, and they're not a record label that likes to release instrumental music, so it's not like you could say, hey, one of them is an instrumental, all vocal songs, and be, you know, marketable material for them. And that's fine. That's what I'm more interested in doing anyway. I should give a shout out to them because they've been really cool with me on all of these, dude. I mean, they've just given me full artistic freedom to create the music I want, write the music I want, record it. And they've never said no to a song. They've never told me what to write. They've never told me how to make it sound, anything.
Yeah.
So they've been really cool. You know, there are other things I think some projects that they'll put out where they have more say so in it because, you know, it'll be something that they're putting together. But this is something that I kind of put together on my own and then brought it to them with Dying to Live. I figured that was probably initially the smarter move on my part. Like I wanted to do it artistically no matter what. And then as it turned out, Frontiers signed it, and then we've just been making the record together ever since. But I do think it's really nice of them and cool of them not to, you know, get, I guess micromanaging is the term.
Put parameters on you. Yeah.
They don't really tell me what to do at all. They seem to like everything I do. I think they like everything I do. I mean, I like, it's nice of them to give me a spotlight, shine a spotlight on what I'm doing. I'd probably make these records regardless.
Sure.
Like, you know, it's just like a creative thing, something that I want to do. But it's nice to have a little bit of a spotlight for it. No, you know, I'm not gonna lie, it's nice to have people like actually like get to know it a bit. And I mean, I don't ever anticipate this becoming the way I'm going to pay my bills or having it become like, you know, my primary income or anything like that. It would be nice to tour it and have some fun with it. Difficult to organize financially, probably a disaster for me, which is something that I need to keep an eye on as well, because I'm living in New York. I got 2 kids and, you know, paying my bills and their bills and everything.
Oh, you don't have to tell me. Yeah.
So figuring it out would be really cool. I think financially would lose some bread, but you know, it's something that regardless, it's nice to have the artistic moment, you know, where you sit down and you're creative and it's your statement, and have that documented for people to go back and listen to and check out.
And what is your creative process like in terms of how are these songs crafted? What typically comes first in your process? A title, a line, a riff?
Yeah, it can be different with everything. The other albums were typically something where I would go back and find some pre-existing stuff that maybe I'd written for other things that I thought that was cool. Why the hell didn't they use that? And so there's a handful of songs like that I could point to, especially on the first one, Dying to Live, because leading up to that, I've written all kinds of like rock ideas. I wasn't putting out rock albums, you know? Maybe stuff that I was thinking, maybe I'll show that to the guys at Night Ranger, or maybe I'll, you know, start a band someday and use it or whatever. Anyway, this was the first one where I was like, you know what, man, I'm not even going to go back and look for that. I'm going to just write riff first. So there's 11 songs basically there, because there's a bonus track that people have to hunt down. But just created the riffs and arranged them one a night. So I just kind of scheduled for myself, just right here on the iPhone, voice memo, man, just like click it. And by the time I was ready to get it down, you know, mess around with a metronome going or something, and you know, write the riffs, arrange them, get it down on there, put it into Pro Tools, and then from there start thinking about the vocal melodies. And a lot of times, because the lyrics aren't quite ready yet, I'll do that on my guitar. So what Vinny Appice gets from me is a session where he hears my rhythms, like the basic rhythms, the foundation, like riffs, songs, and then a lead guitar. I don't even have solos on at this point in time, but just like what the vocal is going to sing. So he'll hear this melody being played on a guitar, so he knows where the gaps are, and he can play. And then Tony plays to that same thing. So Tony Franklin will play the bass to Vinny's tracks and my scratch guitar tracks, we call it in the business. And then from there, that enters a situation where multiple things can be done. Like Derek Sherinian can lay his keyboards down to that if I tell him where his solos are and say, like, hey, you're gonna be playing a solo here, here, here. You know, Derek's got great sounds and great parts for everything. And then pretty much simultaneously, I'm like writing the lyrics, and I'll get a guide vocal down. So I have to like sing the entire record basically on my own, and then pass it on to Girish, and then Girish just sings it way better than me. So he can solo up what I'm singing, but I'll kind of have written for his range, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, right, right around the notes. I'll always figure out where a singer has their sweet spots or what's going to showcase them the best. And so I think I wrote in a lot of his higher register screaming on this particular album. And,
yeah.
And on the riff end of things, I think things ended up a little bit heavier on this record than the other ones because I was coming off of playing with Accept, and I think I had been playing more like metal.
They rubbed off.
This definitely is like still melodic hard rock, and there are times where it even veers towards AOR. Like if you take songs like "Will You Remember Me" or "Lifeline" or "Quite the Ride," those aren't really metal tunes. They're not as heavy, but the stuff that was coming out first was all the heavy stuff, and I was like, and once I got about like 6, 7 tracks deep and everything was heavy, I was like, I better have a few that are melodic here too.
Dial it back a little. Yeah.
I just wanted some consistency in terms of what people can expect, like from a certain like brand or moniker, right? If you got this Joel Hoekstra's 13 thing, you don't want it to suddenly be like, oh, there was this big transition from this sound to this sound. So try to be fairly consistent. And also that fits right in the range of my taste for, I kind of range anywhere from being able to dig like a good pop song all the way to digging like Slayer. I like the thumbs up emoji happening there.
Right.
Yeah. I can make it happen when I do it, but anyway, so I mean that's kind of my taste. So it's my tastes are fairly diverse when it comes to like the pop rock scene, man. I like anywhere from really hooky pop tunes, like all the way to like maybe Slayer would be about as heavy as I would get.
Yeah.
Maybe like Metallica. So anything in there is fair game for me, but I try and stick to like the Dio-ish Sabbath thing with Vinny being, you think about the personnel and like what's right, the Dio-ish Sabbath kind of thing, and then like have the like having some ballads, but have them be a little bit classier, not just like cheesy, like late 80s ballads, that stuff, but more like Foreigner kind of thing like that. I mean, that was the model in my head. Like, think it'd be nice to have some classy, even some R&B-ish kind of tunes, like Paul Rogers kind of vibe. So that was what vocally what I was looking for. I first talked to Russell Allen. I was like, dude, I'm looking for like Dio meets Lou Gramm meets Paul Rogers. Like, if you take those two guys and mash them together, like that's what I'm looking for. I know that that's like in theory totally impossible, but Russ copped all the vibes really well. Girish did really well too. He's got a little bit of his own thing going on. Like when Crash of Life came around, I had the same rap with him, and he delivered great performances. I wouldn't say that he necessarily sounds as much like any of those three singers we're talking about as Russell did, but he's got his own thing. And so this record, I tried to write a little bit more in his wheelhouse. Crash of Life, the vocal range and all that stuff, and kind of written not knowing if it was going to be Russell or Girish singing. So it kind of fell in that like territory where he wasn't doing any of his screaming that he's really well known for. And then this record, I decided, let's make it part of it, man. Like, why take away one of his big strengths and what he's known for?
And now many of these guys, well, I should say all these guys, except for Girish, are all very well established. You know what I mean? Stalwarts, veterans. Girish, relatively, I would say, out of that group anyway, the most that would fall into the definition of a newcomer. How does he show up on your radar?
That was through Frontiers. I mean, that Russell's schedule was just challenging in terms of getting the records done. And when it came time for Crash of Life, we had a discussion about that, and they recommended Girish to me and sent me a video of Girish and the Chronicles, his band, and he's screaming his ass off.
Amazing.
And, the material sounded kind of like early Skid Row to me. And I thought, well, okay, he's amazing. He's not necessarily what I pictured for this. So let me have a discussion with them about like what I want this to be like. And so when we had that discussion, he really is a chameleon as well. I mean, most great singers are. They can kind of choose their avenue of how they want to sing. And so he knocked my socks off on Crash of Life, man. I mean, I thought he delivered some really killer vocals. And then this one, I decided to kind of go a little bit more in his direction. It just make him a little more at home. Let him, like I said, play to his strengths a little bit more. And so consequently, the record's a little bit heavier, a little bit more metal sound to it, but it's still definitely like melodic hard rock. I mean, it's by no means is it like a metal record.
And when you when you're going to embark on a new project, as I said earlier, because people are releasing and consuming music so differently now, is it an easy choice for you? I mean, we're seeing a lot of singles coming out. We're seeing EPs, shorter bodies of work. Again, maybe this lends itself to the attention spans and the way people are listening nowadays. Is an LP still the formula that works best for you, the format?
Probably because I'm a dinosaur, dude. I mean, I've been doing this for a while now. So yeah, I mean, I'd rather, if I'm gonna sit down with a task of making my own music, I don't know. Yeah, I'm pretty antiquated. Like the concept of like making one single and then promoting the hell out of it online, pimping it out, and content creation of me shredding on guitar.
Yeah,
I get it. My social media and stuff. I mean, consequently, like, I've paid the price for that a little bit. Like, you'd look at my following. Some of us, like more classic rock guys, we're not working on getting our reels around of us doing our thing. It's we're more focused on like actually playing gigs or recording albums. So maybe that's just like part of like a generational thing, but that's still where I'm more comfortable, just because I'm a creature of habit. Now, that being said, I still do all kinds of things like sessions where I play on other people's stuff, other people's records. There's the other project records we talked about for Frontiers, Revolution Saints.
Right.
I just got done recording my tracks for that. So I think I'm not sure the release date on that, but it's kind of in the state of being mixed and then getting us together to shoot the videos. And Iconic is another one that I do with them. And that's with Tommy Aldridge, Michael Sweet, and I share the guitar duties. So, people can look forward to that coming out too. I think that we've got everything kind of same deal. I think it's basically mixed at this point in time. We just got to get together, shoot the videos, and Frontiers will have their release schedule for it.
And now, whereabouts are you in your career? Where do you stand on? Because I know it's a big part of how artists make revenue nowadays. Again, with the physical product, not always selling is great. Where do you stand on touring? Because obviously, you're dug in there. You talk about having children, a family, a routine, all that kind of stuff. Sometimes people don't want to tear themselves away from their creature comforts, or it's hard to go on tour nowadays economically, as you mentioned earlier. What's your relationship like with touring right now?
I mean, fairly light. I'm just kind of like early in the year. I've got random stuff, some corporate stuff, like all-star type gig kind of things, is sitting in with people, guest appearances, playing with Broadway's Rock of Ages band, which is like just taking the band from that show and turning us into a cover band, basically. Taking us out and playing the tunes from the show. I actually have a great time doing those, man. It's real old school. It's still like the amp on stage, no in-ears, just like wedges. And I get to play like myself and be introduced as myself, being from other bands and whatnot. So it's not like showing up and doing a cheese ball, like, I guess like, hey, we're an 80s band thing.
Right. A spoof.
So I have a decent time doing those. And then I do acoustic gigs with Brandon Gibbs. We have an acoustic duo thing. Hoekstra Gibbs, the big creative framing process. So I have a lot of fun with Brandon. Brandon's a great dude. We get along, and those shows are kind of their own thing. We'll play like, a little bit of Whitesnake in there, a little bit of Poison because of his affiliation with those guys, and dress them up differently. Like they sound quite a bit different than like, the Poison versions. And then we'll kind of each have a guitar solo in the show. We will play some of his stuff that he's done with his bands, Devil City Angels and whatnot, and some Joel HOEKSTRA'S 13 stuff. I sing a little bit. We'll play a couple covers. That's like one of the places where people get to hear me sing lead, and it's also a place where we tell stories, and it's one of the only places people actually hear me talk. And then, of course, I got Trans-Siberian Orchestra still. So come November, December, I just came off of a big arena tour. So, I mean, right now, TSO is kind of my only really big deal touring wise. And the rest is just kind of like this year going to be just looks like kind of filler. But I'm, busy. It's very busy, actually. I mean, really busy. I still, the session thing has really picked up. I just did some stuff for a Swedish artist that's going to be really cool coming out, and there's a lot of these compilation albums that'll be like a tribute album to a band that you play on, that kind of stuff, and a lot of people that want me to play on their records. And I just produced an album for Frontiers too and played on it. First time artist Austin Starr, different generation. She's younger, influenced by like emo and emo stuff, and but as heavy as like the Pretty Reckless kind of thing for her.
Yeah.
And she, oddly enough, she played me a song of hers. I was like, that's a good pop tune. You should consider making an album of that. And then it turns out she really likes these Joel Hoekstra's 13 albums. She's like, I like your albums. She's like, I like classic rock too. And I was like, well, I mean, I could help you write the songs if you want. So that's how that kind of came about, and ended up co-writing the songs. And then that's being released under Frontiers as well. So very, very busy actually with all the recording stuff. And that's been taken over. I just kind of ride the wave, dude. I stay busy. I just make sure I work every day. I teach virtually at home, so I'll teach lessons, and just as long as I'm working with guitar every day, and I do mean every day, like no days, and just keep going, then like I said, sometimes things work out in ways you never expect, man. Like me playing on Broadway with Rock of Ages, or me playing with CHER, that's not stuff I ever dreamt of or had.
Right.
Like I'm dreaming of doing that someday, but it works out, and then all of a sudden you're doing crazy stuff, like you're playing with CHER at a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction, and Dua Lipa's singing with you, and you're like what the hell? How did this even happen? So for me, that's what it's about, being a pro guitar player, man. You get after it and do the best you can with everything, and ride the wave. When stuff takes off or sticks, you roll with it.
Now, for fans that might want to know, you glossed over it a little bit, like when you said like doing those other gigs where the fans get to hear you sing a little bit. For fans that might want to know, you're featuring Guitarist, you're featuring Jeffrey Scott Soto. Do you just like to focus on the guitar? Like for the fan that might say, hey, on Joel Hoekstra's 13, why aren't you doing the singing?
Because they're better than me, man.
There it is.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather put out like a great album than be all egoed out and be like, no, it needs to be about me, man. I mean, it is about me. The albums are about me. I mean, doing all the writing and playing all the guitar work on it. Those are my strengths, I think, more so than, if Jeff Scott Soto, are you a musician? Do you play?
I'm not. No, just a fan. Okay.
I mean, it's a no-brainer. If a friend of yours is like way better at something than you, and they're like, hey, I'd be into doing that. Like Jeff says he'd sing the backing vocals on. I'm like, well, you're doing it then, because you're going to be better than me. I'd rather the album be awesome.
Yeah.
And same with the lead singing. I mean, I've got my little wheelhouse that I can do. I can kind of sing the lower stuff, do like the Doors and Hendrix and that kind of stuff. And then I can get into a screaming thing where I can sing some AC/DC, and I can sing Zeppelin and stuff if I sing it real screamy.
Yeah.
A really weird period of my life I had. I used to, when the hairband thing was happening, I wasn't cool when I was a kid. I had short hair. I was a little younger than my first band. So I hung out with all the thrash guys because they were less judgmental.
Yeah.
And a little cooler to me and more fun to party with, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, I ended up singing for one of those bands without playing guitar. So I sang for a thrash band in a period of my life without playing guitar. So I developed this ability to kind of scream stuff out and belt stuff out. That was kind of when the Pantera, like vulgar display of power era was happening. And so I was kind of a little bit of a Phil Anselmo thing meets, I don't know. I mean, at times like, Tom Araya or like, even like a little bit of that Jim Morrison vibe creeping in there, but like singing it like the thrash guy. Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of what I'm capable of vocally, that as well as singing like, decent backing vocals in a band, I'm solid, can find my pitch and sing it and all that. But as far as why I don't do it all, because I'm smart.
Makes sense. And now you mentioned earlier, about wanting to put music out in an LP form, getting the message out, covering the themes you want to cover. Are there any specific themes or underlying messages or something that you're trying to say on From the Fade?
I mean, I've just been a little more loose-lipped about it all on all these lately. I mean, it's just really about my relationship with music, like a lifetime of like making a living in music. And so some of the songs, you come across are a little bit more like positive, and some of the songs you come across are a little more negative, and that's the nature of being in music, man. It's a roller coaster. There's times where it's like, you're treated like a king, and then there is times where like you feel like you're the lowest of the low, so
Sure.
Yeah, that's all it really comes down to, man. It's just like a personal statement. That's the era I was in, and that usually doesn't come clear until I'm writing the lyrics. Like it's not when I'm writing the riffs. It's kind of like when I'm writing the lyrics. That's when the themes come to mind. Like, you know, "Dying to Live." That was basically me like quitting drinking, getting sober.
Yeah.
That it was something that I didn't really talk about for a long time, and I just started doing when I was doing the gigs with Brandon, like talking about the meaning behind some of the songs. So, you know, you go back and listen to "Dying to Live," it's like, it's not always me, you know, writing lyrics about, like, you know, from my perspective, but sometimes the lyrics are written from the perspective of the alcohol, man.
Sure.
So, yeah. So it's kind of like you're having a dialogue with it. And same with this record. It's like some of the lyrics are kind of, you know, the embodiment of music. I don't know how you want to put it. It sounds kind of corny, I guess, when I say it, but like, you know, how music speaking to you, and then you having a little bit of a dialogue with it, or, you know, the
Right.
vibes that are exchanged between, I guess, this concept of making a living with it, spending your life doing it.
Yeah.
What you put out and what comes back.
And when this album drops, are you a big one for, you know, because I mentioned album reviews earlier. I mentioned people having opinions. They're all over the internet nowadays. Are you somebody that will go and look and see what the feedback and the criticisms are? Are you a big one for looking at that kind of stuff, perusing on the internet and saying, hey, it's out now, let's see what people are saying?
I'm a big believer in, like, you know, when you read something over and over, there's some validity to it. If you read it like once or twice, then it's like, meh, you know, like,
Yeah.
Like, there's always going to be people with certain preferences in terms of style. Like, you know, they might be the people who like the heavier stuff. Somebody who's reviewing it, and so they'll say everything was cool except the mellow songs, and like, why is it those? Yeah. And then vice versa. There's going to be people that are gravitate towards the melodic, more AOR sounding stuff that does poke its way onto this record, and then maybe they're getting to some of the darker tracks and going like, fast forward.
Right.
So if I read it over and over, something about myself, sure, man. You know, like I'll take the criticism and like to heart and go like, okay, like, you know, this is what everybody seems to be saying. But yeah, it's not worth getting too worked up over like single comments, because, man, it's, you could read the thread comments online under people that I admire and think are just like God's greatest gift to guitar playing or music, and still negativity. You know, I think it's really impossible to please everybody. So there's no point in getting too worked up over every single one.
Now, you mentioned early in the interview and publicly in other places about the influence of Angus Young. Aside from his name, are there one or two other players you could throw out there that you feel like have had the biggest impact on your playing and your approach to the instrument?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of already named them. Like, as far as the bands, I'll give you my rap. I mean, it was early on when I was a kid. I looked at like bands, not guitar players. I was too young to even understand who the guitar players were. I was like listening to the cassettes. So for me, it was AC/DC, Black Sabbath, Ozzy, Dio, Iron Maiden, kind of metal. And then kind of began to get into other stuff. That's where you saw, like, you know, the more melodic stuff come in at times, like Journey, Foreigner, Boston. I could get down with that because there was a lot of talent in those bands, man. Skill. And likewise, the progressive bands that were influences were like Rush and the Trevor Rabin era. Yes. Yeah, which is always take some flack about that, but that's the era I grew up in. And then as far as I did throw Queensryche in there as a progressive band as well. Even though wasn't a ton of like odd meter and math rock happening there, but you know, they were very progressive minded in terms of the music they were putting out. I was a big fan of them growing up. Straight ahead stuff, I always forget to say Dokken. I've been making sure I say Dokken on this promo cycle. And then I was growing up in the guitar album era, man. So, you know, you had Yngwie, Satriani, Vi, Steve Morse were kind of my big guys. A couple of the Shrapnel guys were in there listening to Tony McAlpine, Vinnie Moore, those guys. And then I grew up in Chicago, where there was a lot of great classic rock radio stations. We had the Loop and WMET and WCKG. So all of those together kind of really made up for like a love for classic rock too, like Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, Hendrix,
Sure.
trying to list all that stuff. So pretty much if you start taking all that stuff and going, those are my band influences. And then as far as the guitar, Angus Young being the spark that made me want to play, but like I was heavily influenced by TJ Helmerich and Brett Garson because those guys were my mentors when I was younger. I mean, when I met Brett, I'd moved to LA to go to GIT at 19, and I hadn't done anything except play some local gigs and have nobody show up in Chicago. And he had a #1 album out, even with Nelson at the time, because he'd moved from Australia. He was playing a huge gig there with John Farnham that he was a regular part of, and he kind of came over to the U.S. because Nelson at that time was deemed a surefire hit. Yep. Which actually initially, if people look back, they were. I mean, they were the #1 hits and. They were a huge success, and then just that so happens that's right when the 90s thing kind of came in and changed everything, the grunge scene in particular. But those guys were big influences on me, and then from there it kind of became more like people that I work with, man. You know, you kind of, when you're in a band with people and you learn from them, that's kind of how you evolve and change. That's why I try and work with a lot of different people too, man. You get a lot of different influences, and you do pick up tricks from everybody you work with, man, for sure.
Yeah. And now what else other than JOEL HOEKSTRA'S 13 coming out? You may mention of some of the other projects. Any updates on Revolution Saints or Iconic?
Yeah, like I said, both of those mix and scheduling the video shoots and things like that so we can roll out promo for them, etc. So as far as release schedule, I don't have a release schedule, but I can tell you I'm done with my guitar tracks.
Okay. So more than likely we see stuff from those projects in 2026.
I mean, I can't necessarily guarantee that. So that's going to be up to Frontiers when they want.
Okay.
I would think so.
Okay. And I wanted to ask you, because so many people in the rock world, and you've had some amazing experiences, played in some amazing projects. I don't know if this is an itch you would like to scratch creatively, but is there a book or a memoir in JOEL HOEKSTRA'S future?
Probably not, unless it was motivational. At some point in time, somebody had spoken to me about interest in doing that.
Okay.
And the thing is like, when you're a part of other things, I mean, there's really nothing to do. I really wouldn't want to dish dirt on anybody that's had the chance to work for, because I'm lucky to be there in the first place and do that. So that doesn't really interest me much, like trying to dig dirt or talk about behind the scenes in those gigs. But what I do think is my story, and what's a decent story about me, is that I basically grew up in a very poor family in the middle of nowhere, and just kind of like worked my ass off nonstop, doing everything I could with guitar, and found my way to being, depends if success is relative, but I feel like I've done well. Personally, I feel like I've done well because none of it was supposed to happen. So to be able to get out and tour the world and play arenas and record albums and have my opportunity of making a living with it and actually do pretty well doing that's for me, I've done well. I just want to take it as far as I can, but that's everything we kind of talked about as far as when I gave you that really long answer about, what was your big break? And I kind of was here's all the stuff. That is really what it's about. Like if you really broke it down and looked into a lot of those moments, there were times where I was doing stuff where I was probably getting paid 5 cents an hour or 10 cents an hour or something like that. Crazy stuff that you'd be like, well, dude, why the hell are you doing that? But almost everything I have is owed to that and doing preparation, like working hard. So it would need to be some kind of motivational thing, because I think that there's something to be said for that. Younger musicians that are out there going, how do you do it? I mean, the landscape has changed for them now with obviously everything online it really changes everything. And
it does.
Content creation and how you're going to get through and how you're going to make money to be able to pay your bills. That's a problem. There's always a window shutting, man. Got to get through that in life. And I often say, and I'm not even kidding, that I had to sort of like say I was cool with being poor for like the rest of my life. Like be like, I'm okay if I'm like live in poverty the rest of my life. This is what I do. I think you kind of have to have that crazy side to you to get into this, man. Unless you're lucky enough to be one of like the guys that rode the wave of that, you know, like Sunset Strip thing. You take your career kind of takes off when you're 21 or something like that.
Yeah.
And even then, they probably still had to fight for a couple years in there, a few years, where their family was thinking, "Geez, what's become of them? They're totally
right."
For me, that period lasted a long time. I mean, things really took off when I talk about joining Night Ranger. I mean, I did that at 37. So, I mean, for me to go through all those years where it's like you're kind of like, you know, the guy teaching lessons and gigging in bars on weekends when all your friends have sophisticated jobs and own their own place and are getting married and all this stuff. And you kind of have to be able to be nuts enough to go, fuck it, man. I'm just, this is what I want to do, you know?
Yeah. Throw caution in the wind. And so before I let you out of here, given the fact that all these esteemed artists that you put together for Joel Hoekstra's 13, they obviously all have their own itineraries. For fans that might want to know, could we see this lineup at all bringing these songs to life in a live setting, or would that just be too hard to coordinate?
It could happen. We did one gig in support of Dying to Live on the Monsters of Rock cruise, and it's always a possibility. It could definitely happen at some point in time. Where it gets tricky for me is like the whole, like, are we going to really like try and tour it, like take it out on the road? And then you have to, thing with that is you got to plan far in advance too.
Yeah.
And you got to find a booking agent to get behind you. And it would take a lot more than me just being the guy, like trying to push all the buttons and make it all happen. And then you're talking about taking, like you said, esteemed musicians, guys that are veterans in the business. And like, you're not going to make them stay in like, you know, the budget motel.
Right.
Like you got to find a way to do it right. So, and travel in a way that everybody's not going to hate your guts.
right. Resent you. Yeah.
Exactly. Dude. So, I mean, I never say never. I would really dig it. I mean, I would love that if that was like something that could take off live, and it would probably do wonders for, I think, my personal profile and or reputation in the rock business at this point in time to get out under my own name. It just is also like people don't show up. Obviously, it has so much to do with the name or the catalog of songs that they can expect to hear.
Right.
The thing with having Vinny in there is you can play Dio in the set with some validity, and you can play some Whitesnake in the set with some validity with me.
Absolutely.
And we did that. We peppered the set with some Whitesnake stuff and some Dio stuff when we did do the gig, and it went over great, man. I mean, it went over really incredibly well on the cruise. So you never know.
Never say never. And so if people want to tap in, find out everything that's going on with you, I know everyone's on social media somewhere. Before I let you go, where's the best place if people want to check out, you know, where you're playing, you know, I mean, what you've got going on, projects, stuff upcoming? Where's the best place?
I'm still old school enough to have a .com. I mean, you can go to JoelHoekstra.com, JOELHOEKSTRA.
Okay.
And check out, where I'll be playing live or what I'm up to. I do a pretty decent job of keeping that up to date. Some people really let their slide.
You have to nowadays. It's such a pivotal part. It is. You know, even if you don't embrace it full on, it's where we are now. You know, you gotta lean into it in some respect.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a good place, and you can link to any of my social medias from there, I guess would be my point with all that stuff. I mean, I'm on everything except TikTok. I'm unable to get myself to do that.
Me neither. I refuse. I'm not going to play ball. I'm just not. Yeah. You know,
you know, I do all the others, and I do a pretty decent job of replying to everybody, especially more on inbox than in the comment sections. You got to draw the line somewhere, man. If you're replying to every single comment, it's like, man, you spend like half of your day on social media if you're not careful, you know?
Oh yeah. It could suck you right in. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, listen, man, I really appreciate you doing this. Your publicist was kind enough to send me the album over. Absolutely fantastic. I really, really enjoyed it. I wish you a lot of success with it, man. And I hope people will check it out. It drops February 27th.
Awesome. Thanks so much, dude. Appreciate it.
What a pleasure, man. Thanks, Joel. Really appreciate it. Stay in touch. I'd love to do it again, my friend.
Yeah, likewise, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it, dude.
Good talking to you. Thank you.
Bye.
Later. There he goes, folks. The legendary Joel Hoekstra. Go check out his new album under his own name, Joel Hoekstra's 13. The new album From the Fade drops this month, very shortly. At the time of this recording, it is February 12th. So 15 days. February 27th, Joel HOEKSTRA'S 13 drops their newest album, From the Fade. And you can also check out Joel, who is a monster player. I mean, an amazing guitar player. You can go on, do a deep dive, check out stuff that he's done. He was on the last 2 Whitesnake studio albums, had a nice run with them, has played alongside CHER, Night Ranger, of course, his ongoing gig with Trans-Siberian Orchestra. He's teaching. He's done the Broadway Rock of Ages, which obviously spawned that movie. So really one of the true amazing players as far as guitar in the rock world. So I wish him a lot of luck. This is a great album. You know, I think he described it best, so I'm not going to try to put my labels on it. It is very much good, melodic, classic rock, amazing song structures. And, of course, he's put together an amazing lineup. Guitarist Pradhan, who I might be saying that name wrong, and I apologize if I am. I think Girish is how Joel pronounced it. Girish Pradhan of Girish and the Chronicles, an amazing voice, incredible. And you know he has to be if you've got Jeff Scott Soto singing backup vocals, which Joel does. Also has Tony Franklin on bass, the great Derek Sherinian on keyboards, and of course, as he mentioned, the great Vinny Appice behind the drum kit. So he has really put together, I hate to use the word super group, but he really has put together some amazing veterans of the rock world, some stalwarts, some guys with real longevity, an amazing band that he surrounded himself with, which is why this is an incredible album. So make sure to check out From the Fade, dropping February 27th. And that's by Joel HOEKSTRA'S 13. And I really appreciate him coming on here. I know what you've been thinking, and I didn't get a chance to address the proverbial elephant in the room before Joel got in here. But this whole time, I'm sure you're only human after all. You've been looking at these smoldering good looks, these luscious blonde locks. I'll confirm for you, which I usually do at the beginning of the episode, that yes, you have been looking this whole time at the one and only that we know of, love child of one Diamond David Lee Roth. Now I've divulged it to you, and I feel a lot better for sharing. And that's how I approach my relationship with my audience. Always have, always will. Now I can go into my obligatory promotional spiel because, as you know, if you have a podcast, you have to pimp it. Today, my pimp hand is feeling very strong. So here we go. Make sure to tap into PodScum on Facebook. Our handle is Off the Couch Boxing and PodScum. Don't be confused. I have 2 shows. For you pugilism fans, we got you covered with Off the Couch Boxing. For you rock, metal, arts, entertainment, whatever fans, we got you covered here on PodScum. You can get information on both shows on that Facebook page. Same with Instagram, same handle on Instagram, Off the Couch Boxing and PodScum. And of course, if you're watching me right now, this is where you really need to be. If you want to watch and listen to these episodes in their entirety, tap in with us here. If you're here now, like, subscribe, and most importantly, smash that notification bell so you will be tapped in when new episodes drop. We bring you something new every single week. Sometimes it's an episode, sometimes it's multiple episodes, depending on how productive of a week we've had, how much content we can roll out for you guys. But when we get it, we don't sit on it. We get it out to you guys to enjoy. So usually I have these episodes out within a couple of days, a week tops. And there's lots to peruse as far as back episodes. We are north of 300 episodes of Off the Couch Boxing and closing in on 400 episodes. I believe we're just about at 380 episodes of PodScum. So there's lots there, something for everybody. Go check it out. I appreciate the support from everybody that's tapped into the channel. It's been awe-inspiring, overwhelming for an independent podcaster to see the growth that we've been able to achieve here. I want to thank the viewers. I want to thank the subscribers. At the end of the day, it goes without saying, I must thank the guests. I know it's a great thing to feast your eyes on all this beauty that I'm presenting to you, but it's not why you tune in. You really tune in for these incredible conversations with these amazingly talented artists that I get the pleasure of having on here. So I want to thank them at the end of the day. Specifically today, Joel Hoekstra, thank you so much for joining me. And make sure to get out there and check out Joel Hoekstra's 13 and their new album, From the Fade, dropping February 27th. So that's all for now, folks. Until we get together and we do this thing again, remember to take it easy and keep it sleazy.